Hi everyone, this is Rachika Gupta. I am the CEO of the app HealthClickAway. Today I want to share my story with all of you, and I'm sure you all would relate with this. Earlier I used to think I should avoid sugar in tea and coffee, should avoid fat like ghee or butter from roti or bread, and even I should avoid eating fried foods and many such things. I always used to feel guilty even when I was eating my favorite food, and I'm sure this happens with all of us. On social media, we look at other people's profile, admire their beauty and the slim bodies of celebrities, and curse our own bodies, always comparing everything and judging other people by their weight, not exactly knowing the root cause of the problem. These days, high profile nutritionists advise you on social media regarding good food habits, showing a slim trim picture of some high profile celebrity they work with on their diet and other things. But by just following their advice, you cannot achieve what you are actually looking for. You can adopt those good habits, but when you go to buy their services, it's really unaffordable. And those actresses they are promoting are well paid, take royalties, and that's the way of publicity. All those nutritionists are with those actresses to monitor even a single bite that's going in those actresses' mouth. And they have all kinds of helps, maids, and access to all kinds of good food and gyms. But it's not practically possible for people like us who are busy in their daily lives, taking care of our families and fulfilling responsibilities when we don't even get time to take care of our daily health needs. That is why we developed the app Health Click Away, which will guide you at every step at no cost. Even you can hire a professional personal trainer and a nutritionist at a very nominal cost. Our aim is to educate people on health needs and burst various myths that are floating around everywhere. Today we're going to talk about the healthy habits you need to build, which you can carry with your life forever. And with Health Click Away, you can take a hold on your own health. Today we have with us HCPC registered dietitian Ms. Ramanpreet Kaur to guide us about healthy diet for natural weight loss. Hello Raman,
Hi, thank you so much for having me again.
how are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Awesome. So today you are going to talk about healthy diet for natural weight loss.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, awesome. Let's start with our first question. How many calories are required to lose weight naturally?
Yeah, and I think this kind of varies from person to person. I think we've always discussed about, how calories that a person requires can vary with age, your gender, your health. So certain diseases means that you need more energy, so you require more calories. Your height and weight are, of course, something that's well known. So if you're a really tall person and you're a bigger person, you require more calories as well. And other factors do come into as well. So if you take all of this into consideration, I can't actually give sort of an exact calories because each one of us is different. And even something like our ethnicity can come into it as well. So as a general rule, something that I've practiced is that I tend to take away around 500 calories from the person's current intake. And this, if done properly with, sort of monitoring, this can generally lead to a healthy weight loss of between 0.5 to 1 kilo per week. So anything kind of beyond 2 kilos per week, we would consider it in the rapid loss category, which it can have negative side effects. So sometimes people find that their skin becomes very loose, or rather than fat, they actually tend to start losing muscle. So they tend to, sometimes people notice in the face, it can become quite loose, like the skin can become quite loose because people have lost weight very quickly. So to prevent the kind of negative side effects from happening, we go for a healthy weight loss, which is, a 0.5 to 1 kilo per week. So if we're looking at it in terms of maybe losing 5 kilograms, I would advise it would take anywhere between, 5 to 10 weeks to do it healthily, or maybe a bit less, because especially in the beginning, you might lose some water weight rather than weight itself as well. So around 500 calories deficit from your current energy intake is a good way. And again, if you're using an app like HealthClickAway, you can add in what you're eating into the diary application part of it. So you can get an idea of, at the moment, are you having 2,000 calories? Are you having 2,500? And whatever you are having, that's something you can take away from. But, please remember, this is for people who are in the overweight category or the obese category. If you're in a healthy weight category, I think 500 calories would probably be too much. And I would advise, speaking to a healthcare professional or a doctor around how to tone up, probably.
Right. And just tell me, whatever I said regarding the social media part, are you agree with that?
Yeah, I think there is so much pressure on people, both men, women, and children. I think the pressure is really on to have these kind of impossible looking bodies and these trends that tend to be there. It's very insane. And I think there's a lot of people out there. I mean, here in the UK, one of the things that most people don't know is the word nutritionist is not a governed name. So actually anyone can call themselves a nutritionist and start giving advice to people. And that can be quite dangerous because, you might not realize that this person, in terms of their knowledge or their qualification, could be on a similar level to yourself, for example, or just to any lay person on the street. Whereas the title dietitian, you have to have done a certain number of years of study. You have to have a degree. You have to be registered to call yourself a dietitian. But, it's not knowing this and sometimes falling into the trap of, look at me, I've lost weight very quickly. It can kind of pull people into doing not very good things with their health and their diet, which is, it's all about sustainable loss and a healthy loss.
Exactly. So social media is sometimes it's giving you false information or some myths which you are just trying to adapt for yourself, and instead of benefit, you're just harming yourself, right?
Exactly.
Okay. So can you just tell us about what are the macronutrients components of a healthy diet? And please explain the term macronutrients first.
Of course. So the term macronutrients actually just refers to these three components of a diet that any human food kind of contains. So this is fat, protein, and carbohydrates. So we've probably all heard of these three things. So all foods are made up of this. And what we would recommend as part of a healthy, balanced diet, and if you're within sort of a healthy weight category, is to have around 50% of carbohydrates, around 35% of fat, and only 15% of protein. So a lot of people out there might think, that's totally opposite to what I've heard, because of so many diets out there, such as, something like an Atkins diet or a ketogenic diet, where they really manipulate these macronutrients. But a healthy, balanced diet will include around 50% of carbohydrates. And the reason for that is because a lot of foods, including fruits and vegetables, do contain a lot of carbohydrates. And as we said in one of our previous sessions together, in nature, there's no food which is completely one category or completely another category. They have a mixture of all of these three. Even fruit contains some protein, and even something that you think is really high in fat, for example, does contain a little bit of carbohydrates and protein as well. So having a balanced means that you're getting all three, but your sources are healthy. So in terms of carbohydrates, one of the things I always try and push people is to go for whole grain foods, whole foods. So if your staple is rice or flour, then going for something like brown rice or trying to vary a little bit would be a better option. Or if, for example, you're having flour, then going for wholemeal flour, brown flour, that sort of thing would be a healthier option. If you're having breads, then going for wholemeal bread that's seeded is an excellent choice. And those things tend to contain fiber as well, and they have a low glycemic index, which means that in your body they get absorbed slower, so it doesn't cause such a fast rise in your blood glucose levels, blood sugar levels, which is a really good thing for most people. So that's something I would recommend in terms of carbohydrates. Now, if we look at fat, so as I say, that should make up around 35% of your diet. And we tend to look at fat in kind of two categories, saturated and unsaturated. So having a majority of your fat coming from unsaturated sources is a good idea. So that's things like avocados, your nuts, your seeds, some oil. So like olive oil is a good source of polyunsaturated fat. Having oily fish, if you eat fish, is a really good idea as well. Having fish in general, we say, having 2 portions of fish per week, the government guidelines, with one of them should be oily, and that will give you your omega-3s, which are really good for your brain and just a general overall health. They're very good. And I think I would just like to remind everyone as well that, you need all 3 for a healthy, balanced diet, as I say. So you need fat in your diet. You need carbohydrates in your diet, and you need proteins. You need the carbohydrates for energy. You need the protein for repair and building new things. And fat, every single one of our cells contains fat in it. And every single cell needs fat. So the outer layer of our cells is actually made up of just fat. So fat is absolutely essential for us. So it's really important we do consume all 3 to, part of a healthy, balanced diet.
Yeah, thank you, Raman, because normally people think that fat is the main culprit and they totally cut this thing from their diet and suffer from.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So if somebody wants to lose weight naturally, are they allowed to eat rice and flour?
Yeah. Again, I think this kind of comes into this whole kind of diets out there now that are really encouraging you to cut out carbohydrates. Now, as I say, you need carbohydrates in your diet, because if you were to cut out carbohydrates, that would be half of your calories that essentially you would have cut out, because if 50% of carbohydrates are supposed to be of that. Now, what are you going to replace it with? So either you're going to become malnourished, or you're going to have a very high levels of protein, which can have a negative impact on your kidneys, or you'll have really high levels of fat, which can have negative impacts on your liver. And either of those things aren't a very good idea. So absolutely, I would say eat the rice, eat the flour, but of course, with anything, have it in moderation. So if you're going to have rice and flour, go for the wholemeal variety. Try to have that, and any kind of carbohydrates is good in moderation. And try to kind of do a variety of things. So sometimes, you could have oats in the morning. You could have a wild rice, which are kind of black in color. That can be a good option. Or quinoa is another option. So try and vary kind of your carbohydrate sources as well. And that's a really good idea. Eat local as well. So whatever's local to you. Don't feel like you have to go out to these health shops to try and find something, that is a superfood, because superfoods don't really exist. So, eat local, have a variety in your diet, try to incorporate different things, and just have everything in moderation, and that's absolutely fine.
You just said it rightly, superfood, because normally people go to shop with, say, superfoods, and that they are actually very expensive, or maybe the double price of a normal food. And you need to stay healthy. Do you really need to spend double amount of money? So that's why it says eating healthy. Is it really expensive to eat healthy, or it's just a choice?
It's absolutely just a choice. It's not about getting the most expensive foods out there at all. If it's literally, so at the moment here in the UK, what's local to us is sort of green leafy vegetables and some, not tropical fruits. And even if you have these berries and things which are seasonal at the moment, that will help to form, your 5 fruits and vegetables. And that's fantastic. So you absolutely don't need to go and get these goji berries or these turmeric capsules or,
I just read this goji berry and I was thinking, yeah.
Absolutely. So you don't need to kind of, go out of your way to try and get these things. You have everything you need. And if we sort of think about it, our ancestors, they didn't have things flown in from different countries. They were eating local. They were eating what was seasonal, and your body's used to that. So I would definitely recommend that. And it's cheaper as well. So it's good for, your pockets, and your health as well.
Yeah, I totally agree with you that if you are going in a market and whatever your pocket allows, you can buy those. And I think everything has mixture of everything, all the macronutrients. You just eat in a moderation, and that should be good for your body.
Exactly. Absolutely.
And how about the frozen, frozen fruits and vegetables? Is it okay to eat frozen, or we should completely avoid it?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, again, I think there's a myth around frozen where people think it's perhaps not as natural. So, what tends to happen with frozen foods is that as soon as it's been picked, whatever it is, it just gets put on ice and it gets frozen and then it gets sort of transported wherever. So, in actually some circumstances, it can actually be fresher than getting fresh food because the fresh food is, it's maybe been sitting in normal temperature for longer while it was being transported to your shop, or it's been sitting in the shop floor for a while. Whereas the frozen food, because they keep the temperature below zero, it sort of is a lot more fresher. So I think I would just recommend look on the back of it, as long as it doesn't have sort of preservatives and artificial preservatives and things like that. Frozen food is absolutely fine to have, and in some cases actually fresher. And I think for a lot of people, food waste is another issue where they tend to buy things and, before you know it, the week's up and the thing's starting to kind of go off, or, you need to throw it away. And actually having frozen fruits and vegetables can be a great way to try and incorporate some vegetables without worrying that, it's going to go off or something. And it can be a great way to try and do that. So yeah, absolutely.
We can incorporate the frozen food also.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, and we just talked about macronutrients. Now let's understand micronutrients. What about the macronutrient part of a healthy diet?
Yeah, and it kind of links really nicely to what we were talking about. So I think the biggest thing about micronutrients, the biggest source that you can get naturally would be through your fruits and vegetables. And let me just clarify what micronutrients are. So micronutrients would include the smaller parts of what our food is made up of. So it would be the vitamins, minerals, and sort of those kind of, so zinc would be a mineral, iron is a mineral, and the vitamins could be vitamin B12, or it could be vitamin A or K or D. Those would be the vitamins side of it. So having a variety of fruits and vegetables in your diet and aiming for at least 5 fruits and vegetables in your diet is a great way to try and incorporate some micronutrients, because fruits and vegetables are absolutely rich with them, especially green leafy vegetables are jam-packed with lots and lots of vitamins, and they're also very good for your gut bacteria as well. I mean, we haven't really spoken about that, but just as a sort of a small section on it, but our gut bacteria thrives on things like onion and garlic, and there is more research coming out every day about our gut bacteria being linked to our overall health, obesity, our mental health. So trying to incorporate a variety of fruits and vegetables every day is, I think, if anyone can take away anything from our sessions together, is probably that, to increase their fruit and vegetable. And I think I mentioned in one of our sessions that the studies actually recommend having between 10 to 12 fruits and vegetables per day. But the reason that the governments tend to recommend 5 is because most of us are only having around 2 or 3 fruits and vegetables per day. So definitely try and incorporate it. Think about ways that you can maybe add it in the morning. If you, for example, think, you have oats in the morning or something, maybe add a banana at that time, some berries. At lunchtime, maybe a small salad, or, as a mid-morning snack, an apple could be a great addition, something that you can kind of have at the desk if you're back at work or if you're at home. It can be a great way to kind of snack. Some celery sticks or carrot sticks with a little bit of hummus could be a great addition as well. So just trying to think of how to incorporate it is really good. I think the only thing about micronutrients, I would say, is a lot of people tend to think that if you're a vegan or a vegetarian, you're going to be deficient in them, especially iron for women comes up, or B12 is another one. What I would say is, if you're a vegetarian and you're having eggs and dairy in your diet, as long as you're having enough of those things in your diet is generally rich, you will have all of the micronutrients you need. I think what can happen is sometimes when you're having less of certain things, you can become deficient. And if it's something you're worried about, some of the symptoms that can contribute to B12 deficiency could be slight hair loss or tiredness, feeling lethargic. If you're having those symptoms, go speak to your doctor, go speak to a health professional. You can get it checked, and it's quite easily treated. You just need some vitamins to take on. For vegans, it can be a little bit harder. So for vegans, they probably need to be careful in terms of a few micronutrients. So B12 again, because you only get B12 from animal sources. So if you've cut out all animal sources, it can be difficult. So what can be good in those cases is having some yeast extract, which can be a source of B12. And also any fortified food. So if you're having cereal in the morning, a lot of cereals tend to be fortified. Or if you're having, for example, some sort of a dairy alternative like soya or almond milk, have a look at if they've been fortified, because you just need to ensure it's still got enough sort of micronutrients in it. So that's what I would recommend. And I think with other things, sometimes women especially can become iron deficient. A little tip for that is that if you're having something that's iron rich, so if you're having sort of green leafy vegetables, which are quite high in iron, have something with vitamin C in it. So something like a lemon juice or an orange or something like that, because vitamin C actually helps the absorption of iron. So it can make your body absorb it a bit better, which I think if you're deficient is always a good thing. And kind of constructively, if we look at it, then actually calcium reduces the absorption of iron. So if you're having green leafy vegetables, maybe wait half an hour before you drink some milk or something, or try not to have some milk product with it. So I know in sort of Indian culture, it's really common to have spinach and paneer, which is a type of a cheese, together.
Greens.
Yeah. And interestingly, actually, if you're having sort of spinach and paneer or something, cheese, it can lower the absorption of iron. So it's a better idea to make it with perhaps some capsicum, which is pepper, and spinach, because the pepper will contain some vitamin C, which actually helps the absorption. So it's just little tips like that can actually help sort of, people.
And how about just mentioned fruit and vegetables? Is it okay to eat a little portion, or should we eat like only big portion counts, or like half an apple or maybe two strawberries are enough for the day in count of 5?
Yeah, I think anything is better than nothing. So,
Right.
If you are someone that struggles to incorporate sort of fruits and vegetables in your diet, then something is better than nothing. As a general advice, sort of using the palm of your hand is a good way. So if you're having some grapes, for example, around 10 grapes would kind of form a palm of your hand. Same with sort of strawberries and things. If an apple, it depends how big it is. So with a banana, I think a portion size is around 100 grams. So, I'm not saying that everyone needs to measure their bananas or anything, but just, you kind of get an idea. If you feel like it's too big, then it's probably a little bit bigger and you can have it a bit later. For example, most avocados, the portion size is actually half. So it's just little things like that. It's, again, everything in moderation. So if you have a little bit extra today, that's okay. You can have a little bit less the next day.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. So how much fluid do we need? Do tea, coffee, fruit juices, fizzy drinks, etc., they count?
Yeah. So in terms of your fluid intake, they do count. Teas and coffees would actually count. So aiming for around 6 to 8 glasses of fluid is recommended. I think what would be important is that keeping in mind what your goal is. So if your goal is to try and lose weight or try and go path of trying to be a bit healthier, so trying to see sources of extra sugar in the diet, which could be coming through some of these drinks, would be a way. So the other thing about fizzy drinks is that they can actually harm your bones. So the fizziness actually harms your bones. So especially with kids, I would say, try to keep them away from juices and fizzy drinks as much as possible. If you feel like you have to give a child juice, then really dilute it down with water. So then it's a very diluted amount, because the juice is also not good for teeth either.
Yeah.
So keeping all of that in mind, but they do count towards your the fluid intake. And finally, I think the other thing about juices is keeping in mind that they lose their fiber as well. Whereas in a smoothie, you do keep the fiber. But I think the issue with smoothies is that you tend to overdo it with them. So for example, if you're making a smoothie, whereas if you were eating, you might only have 1 or 2 oranges, but when you're making a smoothie, you might put in 5 oranges. So you're going to have all that sugar kind of hitting you all in one go. Whereas if you were eating it, so I say, use your natural juicer, which is your tea.
Right. And how much sugar and salt can we have?
Yeah, I think this is a really interesting question because especially in sort of South Asian culture, salt is kind of put in everything. You're having yogurt and salt's put in it, and whatever you're kind of having, you have fruit, and sometimes people sprinkle salt on it. I would say that actually we really don't need salt in our diet pretty much at all. And same with sugar, we don't need it at all. So with salt, if we think about what salt is made up of, it's made up of sodium and chloride. So we need sodium and chloride in our body, absolutely. But you are getting sodium and chloride through the foods that you eat. So you don't need the addition of salt in your diet. And salt can increase your blood pressure. It can have, impact on your heart. It's not good for your kidneys as well. The guidelines at the moment say to have below 6 grams per day. But if we go back to the studies that were done, it's actually lower than 3 grams, which is around half a teaspoon to 1 teaspoon, which is a really small amount. So I think I would say try and cut it down, salt and sugar, as much as possible, really.
Thank you. And do you want to give any general advice to our viewers who wants to lose weight or who wants to live a healthy lifestyle?
Yeah, I think the overall advice would be, try to eat mindfully, really chew your food, take your time with food, slow down. I think fiber is very important for your gut bacteria and your gut as well. It helps you to feel fuller for longer. So try and incorporate that. If you're thinking about cutting out salt, look for alternatives, like some lemon juice on top is a really nice alternative to salt, and herbs and spices are good. And even, some herbs and spices have anti-inflammatory properties, and they can be a good addition to your diet as well. Try and cut out sort of fizzy drinks because they don't really add anything to your diet. They're sort of empty calories as such. And even the fizziness, as I say, is not good for you. So try and just, eat mindfully, I think, and look at the packages as well. So look at the back of them, look out for the salt content, look out for the sugar content.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you, Raman, for giving your invaluable time and advice to us, which will add value to the lives of so many people.
No problem at all. Thank you so much for having me.
So we just talked and understood that the key to a healthy, balanced diet is to eat everything but in moderation. We don't need to starve, but eating in moderation is the key which we can follow. Even healthy food should be taken in moderation. We should focus on foods as natural as possible, and getting a variety is essential to get all nutrients and benefits out of our food and for our precious health. I would highly recommend you all to download and start using the app HealthClickAway. It's free to use. Try to stay within your calorie budget for the day. If you can't make it some of the day, that's fine too. Cheat days are fine too. Don't focus on being a perfectionist. It's okay if you fall out of your calorie budget on some days, but don't get demotivated and don't leave logging your meal. Important is to stay consistent because good health is not a choice, it is a necessity. Hope you all enjoyed and learned some great things about a healthy, balanced diet today. Do follow and like Health Clickaway for future updates. If you want to ask any questions, do let us know. Drop any question, comments, or concerns in the comment box below. If you wish to look at the previous live session, do visit Health Clickaway YouTube channel. Add smile to your face by being healthier every day with Health Clickaway. Raman, I would just want to introduce you as the nutritionist for the app Health Clickaway. If people wants to hire the services of Raman, they can book her appointment and start taking the valuable advice.
Thank you so much. That's great.
Awesome. Thank you, Raman. See you in the next live. Thank you. Take care.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye-bye.